Good day, everybody. Thank you so much to all of our participants for joining us today on our webinar on the ABCs of affiliate marketing, where today we will learn the basics of running an affiliate program and driving revenue for your brand. We'll tackle key points such as how to know if your brand is ready for an affiliate marketing program, what you need to budget for affiliate marketing, how and where to find the right affiliates, and establishing commission structures. You asked, we listened, we gathered all of your questions from the registration form, and we will tackle these questions live today. Before we dive into our very exciting topic today, I'd like to share an overview of the housekeeping items for our webinar today. Please write your questions in the questions field, and we will take time in the end of the session for answering your inquiries. All registered participants will receive the webinar recording after the session. I really encourage everyone to download the resources on the GoToWebinar interface, and these are namely the affiliate recruitment templates and an ebook on planning for profit, 7 steps for affiliate marketing success. And lastly, we want this to be a very interactive session where we will answer your questions relevant to you guys, to the audience. So please join our poll questions we will pepper throughout the webinar. We look forward to your responses. Without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm your host today, Regina Fashetic, and I'm the Senior Partner Manager for Publishers over here at Refersion. I'm really excited to tackle this subject today as I've spent a good majority of my career managing and growing affiliate programs, working with agencies, and also I understand the value of affiliate partners for your program success. And I'm very passionate about the affiliate space and the education on the basics of running an affiliate program for new and emerging brands. And we're also lucky because with me today is my fellow affiliate aficionado, Eric Swanson, who is our systems operations and data director, and just an overall Refersion expert. So, Eric, if you would take a few moments to introduce yourself, just so all of our audience members know your history and expertise in the space.
Well, hi everybody. As Regina said, my name is Eric. I've been with Refersion for about 7 years, and over that time, I've worked with tens of thousands of merchants, from people who just started their store the day before to multi-million-dollar publicly traded companies. I've seen lots of different methods of affiliate marketing and different programs, some that worked great, some that didn't work very well at all, and honestly learned a lot from the merchants and want to share that information to help more merchants find success.
Thank you, Eric. So Eric has definitely seen it all, and as much tactical and strategic advice that he can share for our audience today. We're so lucky to have him. So we want to understand a bit more about the audience, and we wanted to start off with a poll just so we get a gauge of everyone's experience in the affiliate marketing space. So if you could take a moment to look at the poll right in front of you, how much experience do you have with affiliate marketing? Please select one. Are you just learning the ropes? Do you have a small program and you're figuring things out? Are you pretty experienced, but you can always use new pointers and refreshers on new tactics and strategies? Or you've been doing this for years and you're an expert? Let me know in the poll. Please answer our poll question. I'll give you a minute to respond. Okay, let's see those results. Ooh, okay, I feel like majority of the people that we have in our audience today, they're just learning the ropes. This is the perfect session for everybody. We didn't call it ABCs for affiliate marketing for nothing. So welcome, and we hope you learn a lot of great tidbits from our session today. And up next, right after that is we have a small program and you're just learning the ropes. So we definitely have really exciting topics for you on setting up your program and managing partnerships and all that good stuff. Great. So thank you for answering our poll question. We're going to have a great conversation today. And again, we just wanted to thank everybody who submitted their questions for today's webinar, because that's what guided the framework for our conversation today. So Eric, let's start with the basics and talking about the foundation of running an affiliate program. First and foremost, should everyone have an affiliate program? And how do you know if having an affiliate program is right for your brand?
Yeah, and it's a great question because of course, like, we'd love to say, yes, everybody should. The reality is not everybody should, but more importantly, you have to know when it might make sense. So the first part of that, kind of who should kind of not not turn to affiliate marketing as kind of one of their main strategies, historically we found a few things. We found that merchants who are selling commodities, who are kind of not well differentiated in the market, tend to have more success with other types of sales strategies, whether that's pay per click, direct sales, and so forth. Same with merchants who are kind of reselling, whether that's a drop shipper or even an Amazon seller. Those are can be great ways to make a living, have a business. Know if that's what you primarily do, that's great. Affiliate marketing's probably not going to be the best fit for your business. That said, most businesses who aren't, unless they fall into those categories, they can benefit from affiliate marketing. The key question is when. And it's important to kind of understand and take in accounting of where you are in your business and your overall sales and marketing goals. If you just started your business, and by that, it's obviously you opened the store yesterday. I mean, with Shopify and a lot of the other platforms, it's really easy to open a store, and that's great. Like I know I had a store, I didn't do that well, but it's really easy to open a store. And early stage affiliate marketing is probably not one of the first things you want to dip your toes into because it takes time. It has to be part of your broader sales marketing goal. You have to have thought about a few key questions first of all. First, one of the most important things is kind of have to know your customers and your audience. So who are you trying to sell to? Now, the broader that answer is, and we all want to say, I'm trying to sell things to everybody. And of course, that's true to some degree, but especially early on, you kind of have to pick your battles and really kind of focus on like, these are my key demographics. I want to like understand that market, concentrate on that market and expand out. If you haven't really gone through that exercise, don't really know like who is my ideal customer yet, affiliate marketing needs to hold off because what that feeds into one of those kind of key questions you need to ask before you're getting started. Who is talking to my ideal customer? Who is influencing them, to use kind of the definition as the question? Because essentially that's who you need to think about in terms of who you're going to work with, because that question can vary a lot. And yes, of course, by vertical, like certainly you're not going to work with someone who has a food blog if you sell cosmetics, at least not to probably sell the cosmetics part. But it also kind of helps you focus in on kind of understanding what might be a good fit for your program, who might be a good person to work with. The key thing too is that you have to be realistic about who you can work with starting out. When a lot of merchants think about influencer and affiliate marketing, they of course think about large influencers. They're always in the news, good or
Hmm.
bad, and those kind of people. And the reality is, if you're starting, if you're a small brand or if you're a niche brand, it's going to be difficult to get in those people's ears. They're working with Fortune 500 companies. They're working with well-known brands. They're working with brands that are throwing money at them.
Hmm.
They're not necessarily going to want to work with you, and it's not realistic perhaps to think like you're going to work with that kind of person right off the bat. But more importantly, it goes back to that initial question. Someone who's maybe a broad scale influencer, well known, you see them on TV, they might not be the right fit for you, even if they wanted to work with you. That's because it goes back to that question of who is influencing your customers. If you're in a niche market or have a niche product, someone who the general public might not have any idea about might be a really important influencer for you because they're talking to your customers about something that is important to you. So you really have to kind of think about where you are in terms of your business maturity, your resources, in terms of are you just getting started? Do you have a budget? Or is this really kind of something that you need to hold off on? And if it's really early stage, you don't have many customers, you don't really have a well-defined brand message, work on that first and come back to affiliate marketing a little later on.
I love that, Eric. And again, with the tens of thousands of brands you've onboarded on the Reversion platform, I'm sure you've seen a lot of learnings based on what you've learned from the different brands who, at the end of the day, I think we just want to set up everyone for success. We want to limit that frustration. And I feel like from what you're saying, there's a lot of self-reflection on your brand needs and goals. It has to come into it before just jumping onto the affiliate marketing channel bandwagon just because you've seen other brands do it and expect the same level of success, which can then lead to that
Yep.
frustration. I
Yeah.
wanted to touch on a little point that you focused on, Eric, that your level of resources do come into play. Because another question that we've had come through the pipe was, what's the difference between an affiliate network versus a platform? Because, we get a lot of, I'm joined with so and so network, it has done nothing. So I feel like it's also level setting those expectations. Could you walk us through a bit on that platform versus network and what's right for my brand and what to expect properly?
Yeah, the platform and Reversion historically has always considered ourselves a platform. We exist and platforms exist in general to kind of help you manage what already exists. Now that's not to say that if you don't have a program you're not going to find value, and especially as kind of a long-term investment. But the platform is really focused on giving you the tools, the analytic tools, the tracking capabilities, the payment options, and so forth, for that you have the ability to manage your program in kind of a one-stop shop using the whole kind of using your tech stack and so forth. A network, on the other hand, is more the people. Could be a directory, could be a larger aggregator. Some of those some of those can make sense if you're really early stage and you don't really have the ability or time or maybe the defined products to kind of curate your own influencers, to kind of focus on building your own group. You maybe just want to get some ancillary effects and you kind of
Mhm.
sign quickly, and similar to like what we've seen with similar to like the Amazon affiliate program. You don't know who those people are, what they're promoting. You basically sign up and hey, maybe you'll get $5-10 at the end of the month. You don't need to do anything, very hands off, very low bandwidth. If you're early stage or that's kind of realistically all the time you have, then joining a network might make sense. Well, if you have the time and it's time to take that next level, that's when you need the tool to manage your network and to build your own network.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. And I think so we checked off step one, how to assess if you're a right fit for an affiliate program, which I think from my experience in managing programs, a lot of people fail to do because it's just part of their checklist. So we just wanted to focus a bit more time on doing the due diligence and assessing if your brand is a good fit for this channel before we set you up for success and give you the tools and give
And I
you the
and
advice.
I will say one thing, that if you are kind of one of these early stage merchants, we're not saying don't sign up, don't start. It's more about aligning your expectations
Yes.
properly. If you are kind of that stage of your business, what you need to think about is that this is a long-term investment. We're going to talk about this later too, but you can't expect it to really kind of take off overnight. You absolutely could kind of set it up, have it running, promote it passively, but not focus on kind of it as your core strategy yet. But again, depending on where your bandwidth is, it might even be too early for that. But certainly we have seen merchants who kind of do that, and you kind of seen like slow growth that later on, when they have a little bit more resources, they're able to start pouring a little bit more gasoline on.
I love it, Eric. And I think the key thing to what you just shared as a wrap up to this topic of assessment is the should affiliate marketing be part of your core strategy? Aside from the thoughts on timing and resources, it's something that the brands really need to think about to come into play to manage their expectations. So once the brands have done their step one, how do brands get the word out that they have an affiliate program? And this is of course a very popular question that we got. When can I expect my ROI? When do the conversions start pouring in? And when will I be reining in like performance marketing benefits?
Yeah. And this is where it kind of goes back to kind of knowing your customers and your audience, because some of the first things you should think about are kind of, well, think about your customers first. No matter what kind of program you're eventually looking to build, your customers can be a great early source of finding affiliates. Because let's be honest, they've already bought from you. Hopefully they already like you. If they don't, that's a whole other issue you might need to deal with first. But you can kind of start slowly and kind of start with the low hanging fruit. You should be having post sales collateral to everybody who signs up for your mailing list, to all your customers. You want to talk about your affiliate program in that. If you have post purchase options or upsell options, you can incorporate a reference to an affiliate program there and invite people to join. You can you can have, of course, your social media channels. You want to be talking about your program there initially, not certainly spamming people every day and say, join our affiliate, join, but you want to make sure that anyone who goes to your site who wants to engage with your brand understands you have an affiliate program. And this also helps you craft, while you're thinking about these communications, it helps you craft your messaging as part of your broader strategies, because the best kind of affiliates, and I'll say, except perhaps, and Regina is the expert on this, but publishers are a little bit of a different beast, because a little bit of this isn't true for them. But for anybody who's not kind of a huge publisher, that authenticity and connection to your brand is one of the most important key drivers of success. And that's true whether or not they're a large influencer or just someone who likes your brand and wants to tell a couple people about it. The more, especially today, because let's be honest, influencers somewhat a little overexposed and a little too, you always find those listicles talking about like the entitled influencer and things like that. But the more you can get around that problem and really kind of cut it off at the ankles by just working with people who love you, who love your brand, who love your mission. Do you have, and it goes back to this idea, do you have a mission? Like, why are you in business? Like, that's such a key, important thing to share, to talk about, to find people who believe in that mission. And kind of those are some of your early stage. You also have to think about kind of your overall marketing networks, whether that's professional networks and so forth, because they can also be sources of kind of that early stage starting to find people who are interested. Now, there's also the work of kind of starting to crawl social media. Are there hashtags that you currently follow? Maybe you have product hashtags. Maybe there's like cause hashtags. But other things, where are people mentioning that? That might be someone to reach out to. Same with your other social media feeds. And so there are also directories. Obviously, anything that consolidates people in a kind of a one-stop shop, great in theory. We do often see that a lot of directories aren't as good as kind of doing the legwork yourself, which I know is a lot easier said than done.
Mhm.
But making those kind of real connections, talking to people who already have a connection to your product, and kind of starting with the low-hanging fruit of people who have your passive channels, some of the first way to gain that initial exposure to your program.
Thank you, Eric. And just to your point, if it applies to publishers in terms of authenticity, there's a lot of publisher models emerging that are focused on sustainability, focused on charity work. So it definitely still applies even to the larger companies. I think everyone's just looking for that connection from your brand to their consumers. And if it's a good fit, then that's what you should consider. So it applies.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think I was using publisher very broadly, but certainly, yeah. And there are publishers that focus on particular niches. So if you also fit in that niche, whatever it might be, that also could make sense.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. And the reason we wanted to dive into like really understanding your audience, because a lot of where you stand to expect any type of results from the partners, it really depends on a lot on where you are with your business. That's why that level of self-assessment that we talked about in the beginning is very important, because it varies. There's no like magical timetable we're in starting X month you should be getting conversions. It really varies on the size of your business, what you're selling, where you are in terms of brand recognition. So I think that's also a very important point to
Yeah.
tackle.
And I do want to say too, like, we talk a lot where it sounds like, oh, this is only an online thing.
Correct.
Influencing doesn't have to be just online. And if we think about it, the idea of an influencer and the idea of affiliate marketing, this isn't a new concept. It's Avon ladies, Tupperware lady, like going back to the 50s and 40s, it was the same kind of concept. So depending, it goes back to kind of your audience and your customers. It, maybe the online influencer isn't the first person you want to talk with.
Mhm.
We work with, for instance, we work with medical device companies, and their affiliates are actually doctors referring patients. Now, again, like, is that right for everybody? Is there special regular? Of course, like, we're not suggesting, like, but you can have. We've had real estate agents be influencers. We've had
Yes.
attorneys be influencers. All of these people can be influencers for the right kind of brand, whether you sell a product or a service. So it's, again, goes back to that idea of understanding your customers and who's talking to them in a way that matters, and not just kind of bombarding them, but someone they would actually listen to.
Thanks, Eric. It's like high-tech, trackable word of mouth, especially for a concept that dates back from the early decades, even before the age of the internet.
Oh, yes.
So, Eric, like as we know, because Eric manages a lot of inquiries on the merchant side, and I manage a lot of inquiries on the partner side, we're going to definitely be focusing a lot of our attention today on budgeting and commissions. So don't worry, we'll get to all of your questions, folks. But before we get started, we just wanted to get a sense of your company's annual revenue, just so we can get a sense of business sizes that we have in our audience. So poll number 2, in what category does your brand's annual revenue fall? Please select one of the following. Is it under half a million? Is it between half a million to a million, 1 to 5 million, 5 to 10 million, or over 10 million? Excellent. So it looks like majority of the brand participants that we have today are having annual revenue of under 500,000. And the second
Good.
runner up is between 1 to 5 million. So that's good to see, a good range. Then after that is over 10 million. So we have a good mix. We have a good mix of different business sizes. So thank you for answering that. It gives us a sense of like who we have in terms of brands, where you are in the process of your building your brand recognition. So Eric, I know we get this question a lot from emerging brands or even sometimes established brands. How much commission should I give? Is there
Yeah.
a magical number? What's the range? What should I be focused on? What
Now,
will not make me lose money?
I guess the first the first answer is there is no magic number, but there are a couple considerations. First, and I stress this all the time, affiliate marketing is not and never should be considered a loss leader. So you have to know your own profit margins. And if you're not making a profit on something after paying a commission, that's not a good strategy. So that, of course, factors in. That said, realistically, you should aim to try to be somewhere in the 10 to 20% range. That's going to put you kind of, you're not going to stand out as an outlier. You're not going to be too small. You're not going to be too big. You're going to be kind of in the normal range. If you're selling more of an intangible product and your margins are higher and you can go higher than that, you might want to do so. That said, also, in my experience, unless someone sets a very low commission, the commission rate for influence, at least when it comes to affiliates and influencers, is not the end all be all. Sometimes, well, a common thing we'll see, especially with early stage merchants, is that, well, I'm going to set a really high commission and that'll appeal to influencers. And the reality is, sure, it might get their attention briefly, but if they see, you don't really sell something I want to promote, or I don't know how your products aren't differentiated, or just like, I don't know why I'd want to talk about your products, they're going to move on. So don't think you have to pay a ridiculous commission or a very high commission to get someone to promote for you. Now, the key exception would be a lot of publishers and the broader networks do have minimums. So for them, if you're under 10%, they're pretty much not going to bother with you. And some of them have even higher minimums, and that's a decision you have to make. Again, factoring in your own profits, the exposure, and so forth. Now, when you start going lower than 10%, generally speaking, I suggest against that. However, there are some exceptions. We've seen cases where merchants who sell kind of consumable products and have a subscription component and often incorporate a lifetime commission will pay a lower commission, but perhaps over the lifetime of his subscription. So it's still incentive for someone to promote. I have occasionally seen some larger brands can, or very high priced items can get away with paying very low commission simply because while the percentage is small, the actual commission is still good. We had a merchant whose price points and average orders were well into the thousands. They paid a 1% commission and they were still finding success. But that tends to be an anomaly. I mean, but
Yeah,
certainly
outlier.
if you have those kind of high-end markets, a very high AOV, it might make sense. And other things to think about too is that reversion is pretty much supports the kind of pay for performance. Someone gets rewarded based upon them driving a sale. There's of course also the model of kind of you pay for a post or you pay for a click. I'm not a huge fan of that. And of course, yes, it's a little bit biased because that's not what we do. But more importantly, I've talked to so many merchants the who have just been really burned by those kind of models because even if you're using a system that makes sure there's no click fraud or other things, oftentimes the ROI is minimal. Now, of course,
Mhm.
there are exceptions, but I would hesitate to suggest those as kind of your initial offerings. Now, if you are early stage, you might have to do kind of a hybrid model, maybe a set
Right.
amount plus a performance bonus. So
Correct.
certainly be open to things like that if it makes sense. Um, Somewhat related to that, and it's a little off topic, but it kind of relates to that. It's the idea of like, oh, I'm going to send products to the influencers and then they'll promote me. Product for reviews or discussions can be valuable, but be really careful. It's another thing where I've seen merchants get burned because like anybody who signs up gets like X product and then next thing they've known, they've sent out lots of product and have not gotten much in return. So if you are thinking about that, it might make sense to build that in perhaps as like rewards um, later in the process.
Got it. And I think, Eric, there's lots of different tactics that merchants can try to assess what the right commission rate for them would be. It would be testing flat versus tiered commissions. It would be having different commissions based on a publisher type. It depends on who they want to target. And the key thing for me, from what I've learned in managing accounts, is always test, test, test. Don't be
Yes.
afraid to change your tactic if something is working and something is not working. So I think
And
that's, yeah.
yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
just a quick aside to that. Yes, yes, and yes, but not necessarily on day one. You can always start simple
Right.
and work your way up to a lot of these more complicated structures later on. Once you have more data, once you know the program's going on, don't agonize too much about how much you're paying
Yes.
and your structures early on. Like, yeah, yeah, but yes, it definitely can be very important as your program grows.
Thanks, Eric. And since we're focusing on the affiliate channel, but again, majority of our brands have multiple marketing channels for them, what percentage should they be considering focused and dedicated on the affiliate channel when it comes to budgeting?
Yeah, I mean, it can vary a lot. It's generally if you have a diversified sales and marketing strategy, it's going to be like 5 to 20%. It's not going to be the prime driver. Uh, it's going to be one of many drivers. They all work together. They all work in conjunction. You can't just like anything when it comes to sales and marketing, you can't put all your eggs in one basket.
Excellent, thank you. And then, so that's our segment on budgets. And I really also wanted to focus a lot of time, albeit biased, on partnerships, because the affiliate marketing channel is basically like a lot of building relationships with key publishers and partners that will help promote your brand. This is a key important question, Eric, that we got that I feel like we need to focus some attention on. How do you know if an affiliate is legitimate?
I think it's important to get enough information on the get-go to curate. Curation is one of the most important things you can do to kind of avoid future problems. You need to establish rules for your program. They don't necessarily need to be a massive legal tome, but you need to make sure people understand what's okay, what's not okay. If you are only wanting to work with particular kinds of people, you need to make sure, get their social handles, get their addresses, get their phone numbers, verify some of that information
Hmm.
if need be. Certainly, if you get social handles, double check they are who they say they are. And also I always say, there are two things I also always say. One, when you're getting affiliates and when you're registering people, and Refersion makes this easy, just as an aside, the long form question is your friend, because forcing people to kind of give you a reason why they want to work with you, why they like your products, oftentimes it makes a quick and easy way to kind of do the smell test. If someone can't write a coherent sentence, if someone writes a bunch of nonsense as to why they like your product or doesn't even answer the question, it's an
Hmm.
easy reject. If they can't talk about your product coherently, how are they going to promote it in a meaningful way? And so there's kind of like, if something feels a little off, someone says like, oh, they're a super big influencer and you just started your business yesterday, if it feels off, maybe trust that gut.
Thank you, Eric. Um, So I think just to wrap up on starting out with partnerships and starting out and reaching out to potential partners, I think it's really important for everyone to understand that affiliate, it takes time for nurturing. It's definitely not, here's my budget and then the conversions will come. For those who have been in the space for a while, I'm sure you hear it all the time, like a broken record. Affiliate really is not a set it and forget it channel. It's really building relationships with key partners and with the same level of assessment that you have for understanding if your brand is a good fit for this channel. It's also assessment of your partners to see if they're a good fit. And bottom line, the speed of your conversions coming in, it really is dependent on a lot of different factors. And we can't talk about partnerships without talking about the process that goes into it, Eric, like recruitment, activation, and optimization. I want to talk a bit more about like the best practices based on what we've seen works with our brands. Can you talk a bit more about what does it take in terms of process for recruitment? What's the best practice for that? Um, I hear this a lot from a lot of inquiries, like my brand is sensitive or our product is high end and luxury. But what have you seen that have garnered success? And on top of like after the recruitment process, what are the next steps that they should be aware of once their whole program is set up and they're ready to drive conversions?
Yeah, I mean, I think again it goes back to the idea of like making sure you know your audience, that you're curating them, you're forcing them to kind of apply, unless you curated them outside of it, but that you're getting the right kind of people up front. If you have specific requirements, whether they be regulatory or just marketing related and brand related, make sure those are clearly defined, people understand and agree. Communication, like in most every relationship, is really key
Hmm.
before they sign up and then after they sign up, especially when you go to like working with smaller influencers, the nano influencers, the micro influencers, just normal people, communicating with them about your brand opportunities, new product reveals, creating incentives, those communication strategies, and keep making sure you kind of stay top of inbox. And it's something
Hmm.
beyond just a form they filled out and a button they click, but they start to feel like they're part of something bigger. They feel that connection to you. The more you can do, whether that's via email, Slack channel, Discord channels, Facebook groups, again, wherever your influencers are, wherever your customers are, that's the kind of channels you want to be thinking about. But kind
Hmm.
of making sure that that's part of your ongoing process. And it's something that, especially when you're looking for influencers, when you're communicating, it's not something, as you said, it's not a set it and forget it. You should be, even if you don't have a ton of bandwidth, and I know none of us have as much bandwidth as we want, you should be doing a little something, if not every day, certainly every week. You should be reviewing things. You should be making sure that you have regular communications with new affiliates to make sure they're on board, but also your existing affiliates. And just that communication and the regularity, I've seen nothing more than that kills good nascent programs than merchants who are just like, well, they signed up. Hey, they had a little initial success. I'm not going to bother emailing them. They're just
It's
going to do their
done,
thing. Yeah.
yeah.
And next thing, and then they're asking like, well, how come all my sales dried up? It's like, because people moved on, and you have to make sure that you stay relevant and stay
Yes.
communicative.
Thanks, Eric. And I think that also addresses one of the questions that we got from the registration form, like how often should I be communicating with my partners? The key is if you have anything relevant to communicate, whether it be promotions, a new product line, an exciting influence, an exciting celebrity wore your product or something like that. Those are the things that get partners excited to keep featuring you because it's already getting significant traffic outside of this channel, and we can just piggyback off of that success too.
Yeah.
Um, and then I always like to focus a lot on running reports and data, Eric, because Eric, I would say, is our reporting expert within Reversion. I can anything you ask for, he can give it to you with a full-blown analysis also. Can you talk to us a bit more about what key metrics should our merchants should be watching out for on a regular basis to make sure that they're ensuring the success in partnership building in their channel?
Yeah, I think early on, the key thing is kind of focus on trends, because especially early in your program, it can be, you can set kind of goals, but they're somewhat arbitrary until you understand kind of the lay of the land. If you don't want to say like, I'm going to get 100 influencers this week, this month, this week. I mean, sure, if you're a large company, if you already have strategies in place, you're working with an agency, maybe that is a realistic goal. But focusing on kind of upward trends, consistency is some of the first early stage things. As your program starts to mature, that's when you want to kind of look at that next level of kind of performance. How many of your influencers and affiliates are performing? Are they posting? Are they driving clicks? Are they driving conversions? Are they logging in? If they're not active, are you going to build up some re-engagement for them, or maybe even cull them out if they're not doing anything? That's when also, as your program matures more, you can start to kind of think about kind of revenue goals. People always like to think about money and have reporting on like, well, I made X amount. Of course, we all want to make money, but at the same time, like until your program has enough has enough like momentum and is large enough for that, you can make meaningful goals of, hey, if I want to hit this revenue goal and drive, say, $100,000 more in revenue through my program, well, what does that break down to? How many conversions is that based on your AOV? What is your average affiliate doing? How many extra affiliates would you need, or how many more conversions do your current affiliates have? Until you have enough numbers to answer those questions without kind of small sample size caveats, it's too early to be thinking of those kind of reports, and really just kind of focusing on like your trends. And that's what I really emphasize early on, and focus on more kind of the real hard KPIs as the program grows and matures.
Thank you, Eric. I'm so excited to see that so many questions live on the webinar are coming in. I want to make sure we save enough time for these questions, but I would be remiss if I didn't focus on the ABCs of affiliate marketing and not touch on key season, Black Friday, a little bit. From your years in managing these programs and seeing what succeeded, I'm sure you've seen a lot of tactics and strategies tried out by different brands. Quick, high level, can you give us some key points that you feel like our audience will find very helpful that they should start thinking about as early as July to plan for the key season of Black Friday and holiday season?
It goes back to number one, communicate. You want to start setting that up in terms of communicating, get people ready, get people excited, start previewing what might be coming around. And while there's something to be said about incentives and special unique deals at various points to incentivize, it can be especially important on Black Friday. We've seen merchants have a lot of success with special codes that are only good for flash sales, or unique deals that if you use an affiliate link over that weekend, you get maybe an extra product thrown in, or a special upsell, and things like that give people a reason to focus on that affiliate and click their link or use their code versus just kind of Googling your company name.
Thanks, Eric. All the best practices from our expert, Eric Swanson. So I think the key points on when it comes to partnership recruitment and optimization is you just really need to focus on building your relationships with your partners, making sure you keep on top of your data and your reports. Don't be afraid to test new tactics or new incentives, or even casting a wider net to assess what types of publishers work best for your program. And I think the overall theme that I got from Eric in building that relationship with your partners is communication. Advanced communication, clear communication. If you have a promotional calendar, share that. An exciting discount code, share that. Like anything that would be relevant or incentivizing for your partners to promote you, I think that's very important for you to keep in mind for your brand. I think we tackled a lot of key points for this session. And again, I really want to make sure we have ample time for questions. So I just wanted to share all of the key points that we put together from this discussion. So, and again, we'll send this presentation out to all of our audience members, but the key takeaways from this presentation based on Eric sharing, make sure you do the prep work. Don't be stingy with your partners and assess that budgeting, because I know a lot of your questions are around budgeting. Set your expectations, understand your brand, and make sure you're doing the right thing when it comes to managing your expectations for what to expect from this channel, and keep at it. I understand completely because I've done it in my career. I know the partnership recruitment and activation takes the longest time, but once you see the right partners do the right work, that is just the beauty of affiliate marketing. This is why this channel is long-standing and definitely part of the core strategy for a lot of different brands in managing their performance channels. So we received some very specific questions on the registration form for Refersion, how-tos on like how to set up your program. I wanted to share with everyone that we do have virtual learning sessions. You can request resources on helping your clients setting up their affiliate program, where you can house files specifically for your brand if it's relevant for your partners or for your audience. How do you create links for your program? What contractual terms should you have for your account? Any specific questions that you'd like to ask for your brand, please join our Refersion Live demos or our Refersion Live Q&As, where our team of experts will be able to address all of your questions. And you can be as specific as you want, because we want to make sure we set you up with the tools for success for your brand. And a lot of our team members, they've seen it all similar to Eric. They manage different sorts of brand sizes and different verticals. So we have a lot of team experts on the Refersion side to help you. So without, I hope all of these discussions have been helpful in arming everybody with the essentials in setting up your program for success. In a minute, it will be time for questions. Please make sure you enter those in the questions box for those who haven't yet, and we will answer them in the order that they came in. But before we do, I wanted to take a minute to introduce our audience to our sibling Pantastic apps, LimeSpot, CartHook, and UpOrder. Pantastic's mission is to give brands superpowers to compete in today's competitive e-commerce environment, from customer acquisition and pre-purchase personalization to post-purchase offers and off-site engagement. We have tools that help increase traffic, boost sales, and keep them coming back for more. Please check them out for your brands and see if they're a good fit for services for partnership on top of Refersion. Okay, so the meaty part, let's dive into some questions.
Absolutely.
This is another good one. I feel like you also have a lot of experience here, Eric. When starting out, is it best to hire an agency or bring an in-house manager? But also as a follow-up question, if you're using an agency to manage the affiliate program, when should we consider bringing in an in-house team or take it internally? What should we consider? Because I know you have a lot of experience with agencies and merchants directly managing.
Yeah. If you have the budget and your program's large enough, an in-house manager usually makes sense. Obviously, agencies have the benefit of like, it's outsourced, so you don't have like an employee you have to worry about, which of course is a not an insignificant expense. Not that a good agency is a pretty big expense too, but earlier on in the process, if your program's still early, an agency might be a better fit. They often have connections, they know where to reach out, and also this is somewhat less of a commitment. If maybe it's not working out, or maybe you're not liking their strategy, you can change, which is a lot easier than hiring someone, firing them, all that stuff. In-house managers work best for the larger programs. When you are at a kind of a stage where you need someone who you really, and you can find someone who's really kind of knows the vertical, knows the customers, can build those good rapport with the affiliates, and has that kind of experience, and you want to kind of further incorporate it in, that's when it can be time to consider that. Yeah, it's a lot of most of our larger merchants, and by that I mean 10 million, 20 million plus in annual sales, do have an in-house team to manage things. So certainly, it's also it's also related to budget and just overall company size. And if you're serious about things, I think eventually it is definitely the way to go. But wait until you have you need to have a program that's doing a good chunk of revenue before I think it starts to make sense.
Thanks, Eric. I've also managed a bunch of agencies in my career. I think one key takeaway that I'd like to share with our audience is make sure you understand the agency's services and if they've worked with brands similar to yours, if they've seen success with your vertical, the similar type product, so they know how to market that. That's something to consider. And please feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like to your agency. That's another type of relationship that you're setting up too in terms of partnerships. So we want to make sure that's a good partnership with your agency. This is a very specific one, and I'd like to broaden it based on the questions that we received from the registration forms too. Is affiliate marketing the right sales strategy for digital magazines selling press services? To add to that, I know Eric and I received some questions on, I sell faux flowers, I have financial services. I think the question is around like, how do I assess if my vertical and my services would be a good fit for this channel? Would it work for me?
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to some of the things it sounds like a punting the question, but it's really not. But it's kind of thinking about some of the things we were talking about earlier. A, where are you in your business? If it's still early or you haven't kind of fully explored some of the other channels, maybe hold off a little bit. But more importantly, it's kind of, can you answer that question about like, well, who's influencing my customers? If you can't really come up with a clear answer to that yet, might want to hold off on it. Can it work later on? Could it be part of it if you have good answers to that? Of course it could be. But that's really, it's same with like if you sell high-end products. High-end products can work great, but can be more difficult to find the right kind of influencers because you're not gonna post about a $20,000 product on Facebook generally and have it have much success. You need the right kind of people, and you might need to think kind of outside the box in terms of who's really influencing your ideal customer base.
Perfect. And I don't think it's punting at all. I think it bears reminding based on like the types of questions that we receive and the types of merchants that we do handle inquiries for reversion. This is a question. It's the question is, can an affiliate sign someone up under them? I'm not sure I fully understand that.
Well,
Eric, do you receive that?
yeah, I do, and it's actually a common question. Essentially,
Okay.
for lack of a better word, and I know this is going to be a loaded term, but it's essentially asking about MLMs. And MLMs are a very controversial topic. We discourage it for many reasons that I won't go into, but realistically, an affiliate program should be about your products, not having people recruit and find other people. It's also, there are some complex legal and regulatory things too, where a legitimate MLM and a pyramid scheme kind of start to look a lot alike from a technical perspective. So it's something that we try to avoid, and we've had merchants who've tried it. Those merchants oftentimes like run into issues because, especially if they're like, oh, well, if you pay X amount of money to promote my products, then you're really starting to get into MLM territory, and that's a whole other discussion. But it's really, I'll say this: it shades away from what affiliate marketing is about. It's a different marketing strategy that people have strong opinions on, but I would not recommend it as part of an affiliate strategy.
That makes sense. Thank you, Eric. And thank you for clarifying the question for me as well. Because of all your talk, Eric, on influencers, I think some people wanted to learn more. How do you get the influencers or the partners to post once they've received the products? Any success tips to share?
Well, first and foremost, don't be sending products out like willy-nilly or unsolicited. That is a great way to lose a lot of products. I think if you are going to do this, like ideally you're going to have that reviewed. There's a contract, there's an agreement, there's some guarantees in place, something for a little bit of protection. That's why I hesitate to kind of be recommend that as kind of your initial strategy of just blasting out products. I think it has to be very targeted, perhaps after some communications, and also tied to certainly you're going to want at least a minimum agreement where they agree to post. They agree to post by a date certain. They agree to do X amount of promotions about that. You're entering into a contract, and if you're providing a good, they should provide the service. And if someone's unwilling to do that, I really hesitate about sending them product. The other part of that would be alternatively, and we have seen this with some merchants, they will set a certain budget that is basically freebies, and it's essentially a write-off that they're going to send these out without necessarily expectations. If your budget can support that, de minimis, it's probably not terrible, but again, like don't spend thousands of dollars sending free product to people. You're likely to just get burned.
Because all we want is to make money off of this channel, right? So we have to be smart about where we put our budgets.
Yeah, I've seen the most success with programs that build the products in as kind of gifts and rewards when certain thresholds are made.
To build loyalty, right?
Yeah, so maybe when someone signs up, they might get like a few tchotchkes, like a welcome pack of maybe a couple stickers or some fun thing like that, that physical but very minimal. But the real products come when certain thresholds. I've seen that work very successfully for a wide variety of merchants.
Thank you, Eric. Similar to not putting all of your eggs in one basket, do you have any recommendations on how many affiliates should be existing customers, blog writers, content creators? Oh, I'm glad we're talking about this. I'd love to you to expound more, and I'd have some insights myself on diversification of publishers, essentially.
Yeah, I guess initially I'd say don't preconceive what channels are going to work best with you. As you're especially early stage, be open to all of those. Put them in different, structure it for that you know who's who. Make sure you're getting the information. Perhaps putting them in different offers, even if it's the same percentage, the same structure, it's different. It categorized different, you can report on it. Then don't prejudge it. Don't kind of say, well, I want 10% here, 10%. See what happens first. And then take the next step, going back to that, analyze data, look at what's performing, because you might find, and this is a common thing we do see, that certain kinds of channels work better for certain brands. And you think, yes, that can be related to vertical. For instance, recipe blogs generally are much better. Bloggers and are much better fit for food products. But that said, not every food product, maybe some food products do well on Instagram, even though that tends to be a more popular channel, a more productive channel for cosmetics brands or fashion brands. So don't kind of prejudge anything, but look at the numbers, see like what's working for your brand. And when you see people who are kind of doing something that seems to work, understanding what they're doing will help you target your recruitment efforts better. If you see that, hey, bloggers are doing really well and they all share this commonality, I want to find more people like that and reach out to them. It can be a great way to kind of further boost things that seem to be working for you.
I love that, Eric. I think that the key thing is don't have preconceived notions about who will drive success. That's why the affiliate marketing space is such a good space for testing and learning, and that includes the types of publishers that can drive your success. I understand that a lot of merchants have different preferences on the type of upper or lower funnel traffic that they like to account for and pay commissions for in the program. But especially for the newer and emerging brands, it should be casting that wider net, run those reports to see who are your top ones, the mid-tier ones with lots of room and potential for optimization, and just diversify. Don't just rely on your top publishers to always drive your sales. As Eric mentioned earlier, so he's seen experiences from some merchants like they were doing so well. Why did it dry up? Again, so many factors could have happened. Maybe the communication stopped, or maybe they found a competitor with a higher commission rate. So many different factors can come in, but that's why it's always good to always make sure you're not just putting all your eggs in one basket in specific types of publishers or just your top ones. Very, very passionate about like understanding and assessing the publishers. The next question, and I think as we wrap up, we have 4 minutes left. I think we have two more questions that I feel like we can knock out of the park, Eric.
Yep.
Could you share any strategy to work with content partners such as review sites, ranking, comparison sites without a large budget?
Well, we've seen that a lot of those kind of content partners are willing to work on kind of a pay performance model. We do have
Hmm.
we have some of those that work with our merchants again across the board, and that's really the key. As long as if someone's willing to work for a pay for performance, then
Test?
that's how you can kind of avoid having the large
Hmm.
budget. It kind of goes back to that kind of pay to post idea. If they're saying, "Oh, I'll post a review if you pay me $10,000," yeah, even if you have that money handy, maybe don't want to do that. Certainly without a lot of due diligence and ideally even guaranteed return. And I don't. Very few things in life are guaranteed, but if you're paying someone like a lot, if you're basically expending that kind of resource, you need to have some kind of idea of what you're going to get, and it has to be more than just like, well, I have a lot of followers, so do a lot of people. It doesn't mean
Yes.
they can drive a
Yes.
lot of traffic just because the site says like, oh, well, we get so many clicks and so many views. Cool. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So focus a lot more and really stress on that kind of pay for performance, because then as long like you don't have to pay them if they don't drive the traffic, and if they're driving $1 million worth of sales, then cool, like you're going to have the budget to pay them for that.
Thank you, Eric. And I think another point that I wanted to share with everyone here, based on my experience in working with these types of publishers that I know a lot of our merchants are wanting to work with, the content partners, just make sure you focus a lot of your energy and budgets and marketing on brand recognition, because the more popular a specific product is, your brand is, the more incentivized the partners will be to promote you
Yep.
if there's already interest and hunger and appetite for that product. Because if other people from different channels are already excited about your brand, so will their audience.
And
So
we've seen that
uh,
so much where they start small, they kind of work their way up to it, and like they couldn't work with them when they first started using us. 6 months later they built it up, and now like that partner is knocking on their door.
thanks. And one last question
One last
from,
question.
can you use affiliate marketing to sell a service instead of a product?
100% yes, absolutely. We have plenty of successful merchants doing it. It's again, this goes back to that key thing that drives success versus failure, especially for services, SaaS companies, professional service companies, is who is influencing your customer or your client. We've seen that, like, so that's where we've seen affiliate marketing being used by doctors, by lawyers, by real estate agents. Again, they're not using the traditional social media influencers, online influencers. They're thinking outside of the box. They're finding the right kind of people to work with, and it's same with any kind of service. But we see this all the time. It can absolutely be very successful.
I wish I had a little bell because I would go ding, time's up. So thank you so much, Eric, for all of your insights and sharing with our audience on the ABCs of affiliate marketing. Thank you so much to all of our participants who joined us on this webinar on all of your busy mornings or afternoons. We hope you got a lot of good key takeaways that you can apply for your brand. And we hope you got to learn based on our experiences in managing thousands of brands on the Refersion platform. And thank you, Eric, for your expertise. We hope everyone got a little something in terms of key takeaways to manage your brand. And all we want to do is arm everyone with success for your managing your affiliate program. Thank you for joining, and I hope you join us in future webinars. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.